Welcome to a new episode of World Stories. We'll be taking you on an exciting journey all over the world, full of various strange fun facts and stories. In our journey this week, we'll get to meet the youngest Bahraini boy to reach the south base camp of Mount Everest with his 60-year-old father. We'll join thousands singing to celebrate the 150th anniversary of Choral Music Festival in Estonia. Ever heard about a waterless garden before? We'll show you one. This and much more exciting stories in our journey around the world. Fasten your seatbelts. From Bahrain, we got you the story of 14-year-old Hamad Shakib, the youngest Bahraini boy to reach the Everest South Base Camp in Nepal at an altitude of 5,364 meters over the course of 2 weeks. What makes the story even more exciting is that he did it along with his father, Dr. Ahmed Shakib, a retired plastic and burn surgeon who has braved the climb 25 times since 1990. Yes, you heard it correctly, 25 times. Excited to meet them and watch their videos there. Let's go.
Going to Nepal for trekking 25 years ago, and I've been going there once a year for the past 25 years as a way to weight control and control of diet and change of lifestyle for a little while. And Hamad, even at young age, he used to see me. So even when he was in kindergarten, he made this trophy for me, which is over here, of one of my trips. And he was always climbing the trees and so on. And he got into this interest of going trekking. But obviously Mount Everest was his ultimate goal.
Hamad, tell us, why were you dreaming about Mount Everest in particular?
Because when I was young, my father used to go to Everest Base Camp, and I was every year looking at his picture and got excited and interested. So I told him I want to go with him. So he told me, when you grow up and get stronger, I will take you. And now he decided to take me.
This requires a lot of fitness, of course. What was your exercise routine?
My exercise was to wake early and maybe walk for 3 hours. I put in my mind that nothing is impossible.
What was the biggest challenge?
The biggest challenge was in the few first days, because I'm not used to walk for 9 hours and 8 hours. So I was become very tired, and so maybe for 4 days or 5 days I was very tired and I have problem in my leg. When we arrived to Namche, the few first steps, it was very hard because we are in a very high level, so the breathing was very hard.
How did this affect your relationship?
Our relationship got stronger, and I noticed more things about my father.
What do you think? Did it affect your relationship?
Yes, sure. Because during teenage years, the teenager always has the peer influence with his friends. And usually the secrets and everything and the advice come from their friend, and they ignore their parents. But a trip like this, it removes a certain barrier, and for a while you are like two friends.
Tell us about this moment when you arrived at this destination, the South Base Camp of Mount Everest. When you raised the Bahraini flag, how did you feel?
I was very happy and excited because I achieved my dream, because it was my dream from when I was young, and I was very excited when I raised the Bahrain Alam.
Tell us more about those. What are those? You told me they're called prayer flags. Please tell us more about them.
Yes, in most of the Buddhist countries and the mountains, you will see these flags all over the high passes and the dangerous areas, and it's always pointing to the heavens. It represents the 5 elements which the Buddhists, they think the world is made out of: the water, the fire, the earth, the sky, and the vegetations. And they believe in this so strongly that they put themselves into a lot of danger just to put these in the very, very dangerous areas of the passes, believing that it gives them safety and passage.
Tell us more about those puppets. Each one is in a different costume. What do they represent?
These puppets, they are made, of course, handmade, and they represent the different dressings and the different cultures in Nepal. As you know, Nepal is a very huge country with a lot of lowland area and highland area. So these are the different cultures where the different people. For example, these are the tea collectors, the ladies who collect the tea. And this one is one of their gods. I think it is called the daughter of Shiva. It shows an elephant's head, but they believe it is the daughter of one of their gods.
This was the end of today's interview with Hamad, the youngest Bahraini to reach the South Base camp of Mount Everest, and his father, who has been his inspiration all those years. What we learned from today's interview is that get out of your comfort zone. When you get out of your comfort zone, you become a completely different person. You never become the same person again. Get out of your comfort zone, travel more, and go on more adventures.
From Bahrain to the world, this story will make you take singing very seriously. Estonia has reveled in the 150th anniversary staging of a choral music festival that has been recognized by the UN's cultural agency. An estimated 90,000 people attended the main concert at the Song Festival grounds. The 4-day Estonian song and dance celebration attracted 35,000 singers, more than 1,000 choirs, and 700 dance groups. The event is held every 5 years and started as a song-only celebration in 1869. The tradition of singing is closely linked to the emergence of the country's national identity and inspired the singing revolution in the late 1980s that ended nearly 50 years of Soviet occupation. More than half the singers were under 30 years old and would have only known Estonia as a free country. Yet, the sounds still ring out loud and have deep meaning for this new generation of choir singers. The unity extends beyond borders. During the singing revolution, 2 million people in Estonia, Latvia and Lithuania joined hands in a 600-kilometer-long human chain to protest against Soviet occupation of their countries with songs. UNESCO has recognized Estonia's folk song festival for showcasing the intangible cultural heritage of humanity.
There are some songs that when you start singing them, you just can't hold your emotions back, and the tears just start coming.
For me, patriotism is more about feeling as one with your nation rather than like celebrating your nation. It's more about feeling as one with everyone who's here today.
Yeah, Estonians love to say that it was singing that made us free. So I think everybody believes that, and I think we have to kind of respect that.
It's easy to get lost in time at the Gedlong Castle in France's central Burgundy region. Nestled between the woods and the countryside, builders in medieval clothes cut and assemble stone. They are completing the construction of a new turret. The construction started in 1997. Visionaries and co-founders wanted to build an entire castle using only medieval period construction techniques. Since the first stone was laid, the team at Gedlong has accrued invaluable practical experience in medieval construction. stones at Gedlon are excavated by hand, using mallets, chisels, and persistent hammering. Medieval tools and working practices have been closely researched using documentary sources and examining castle ruins. But with a lack of specific architectural and engineering information on the 13th century medieval techniques, the construction of Gedlon has gone through its fair share of trials and errors.
I think what Gedlon offers as an experimental site is 20 years of pragmatic experience. So we have figures, we have facts, we can answer some of the questions that have come up recently. We've had suggestions, for example, that hectares and hectares of forest would have to be destroyed in order to rebuild a wooden timber-framed roof. Gedlon clearly demonstrates that that's not the case, that we've used maybe half a hectare of forest for the entire Great Hall. So I think we can bring the results of our work to the problem. And as I say, what I think we can be is an inspiration to say that these techniques built the monuments that we still admire today, and these techniques can be used to restore them, and they can stand for another 800 years.
Food festivals, who's not a fan? The sights and smells of UNESCO-listed cultural heritage site Jami' Al-Ifna are major draw for visitors from Morocco and abroad. The square comes alive after dusk as hungry tourists and locals flock to street food vendors to try local specialties. A mist forms each night above the food stalls of the famous Jami' Al-Ifna Square in Marrakesh. Listed as a cultural space, the triangular square has been considered an intangible cultural heritage of humanity by UNESCO since 2001. It draws tourists from abroad who came to taste unique Moroccan cuisine. The smoke from the grilled meat and vegetables ventures up and fills the air with the smell of local dishes. More than 60 street food stalls offer a wide range of dishes for a wide range of prices. A meal can cost anything between $1 to $16. Sheep heads may be a surprise to some visitors, but not to locals. From snails to cakes, there is something for everyone. The fruit juice vendors believe they have the best the square has to offer. The colorful fruit draws in customers eager to quench their thirst in heat. Located at the end of an old trading route, Jami' Al-Ifna welcomed wary traders that had crossed the Sahara from India for centuries. Though trading routes may have changed, the square is no less welcoming to visitors from around the world. The more we learn, the more we realize how little we know about the world. Let's explore some interesting and entertaining facts to twist your brain and tickle your curiosity. Pteronophobia is the overwhelming fear of feathers or being tickled by a feather. I think we'd all find a feather a bit ticklish. The origin of the word ptero is Greek, meaning feather, and phobia also Greek, obviously meaning fear. Snakes can help predict earthquakes. Well, they have a benefit after all. They can sense a coming earthquake from 75 miles away, up to 5 days before it happens. 29th of May is officially Put a Pillow on Your Fridge Day. This strange holiday spans back to the early 1900s, where families would place a piece of cloth in their larder. It's celebrated in Europe and the US to bring luck and wealth to the household. Hats off for this idea. Travelers in Rome have a new way to earn cash towards public transportation tickets: recycling plastic bottles. The city of Rome has unveiled 3 test machines around metro stations where passengers can drop plastic water bottles and receive 5 cents apiece via scan on their phones. This man is recycling his plastic water bottle, but he's also about to be rewarded for his good deed. According to Rome's Transportation Authority, those 5 cents go to the passengers' accounts in apps, which can be redeemed for public transportation. The mayor of Rome is optimistic about the scheme's success. The city has slated the initiative's test run for a year. Wondering what to do over the weekend? Here's the newest. A group of volunteers decided to restore the graves in the city to its former glory. It's one of the Australian city of Queensland's oldest burial grounds, but many of the graves at South Brisbane Cemetery have fallen into ruin. It's a facelift for one of the Brisbane's oldest cemeteries. Volunteers there are restoring weathered graves and paying tribute to the dead. South Brisbane Cemetery held its first burial in 1870. It's now home to about 20,000 headstones, but decades of neglect have left most worse for wear. The cemetery was declared full by the early 1960s, leaving little room for new burials. The heritage-listed cemetery has survived 3 major floods. Now a new breed of guardian angel is providing much-needed care. The restoration effort gives young people a hands-on chance to connect with history. For others, it's a reminder that the past is never far from home. Cleaning the weathered headstones is still a mammoth task, but volunteers say they do the best they can ahead of the cemetery's 150th anniversary next year, ensuring this slice of Brisbane history never fades.
Anyone who wants to know anything about the history of Brisbane, half of that is here.
A lot of the graves, it's got gone but not forgotten written on the headstone, and that's what we want to do. We want to make sure they're not forgotten about.
Scrub and then spray water on it and then just repeatedly do it over and over again.
Thought it would be nicer than going for a walk.
With temperatures that set to reach 37 degrees Celsius in some parts of the UK, many gardeners are busy watering their plants and worrying about the welfare of their favorite flowers. Not so in Colchester, just outside London, where a vibrant dry garden is thriving, despite never having been watered since it was created by the late gardener Beth Chatto in the early 1990s. The award-winning plantswoman Chatto, who was also an author and a lecturer, began her work in 1960, transforming an overgrown wasteland. Like a dry riverbed, gravel paths meander through a garden overflowing with color and delicate blossoms, swaying in the warm currents of the summer breeze. Some of the plants would have gone without watering since the garden was created in 1992. Others have been added since, but the same rules apply. As hot weather engulfs the country, the flowers in the dry garden soak up the rays, using their natural copying mechanisms to thrive in the heat without the need for the gardeners to get out the watering hose. Incredible.
This actually used to be a car park for many years. And Beth always used to say that even the native weeds would curl up and die in July. It was that dry. But she knew that if she just chose the right plants that could cope with these conditions, she could create something really, really beautiful.
With this, we have arrived at our last station. Goodbye and see you next week with new facts, journeys, and world stories.